Bob and David, they're next on the Jay Thomas Show. Jay Thomas Show, hour number 2. 306.
Driving faster in my car.
All right, numbers for the program, 293-9000.
Falling farther from just what we are.
Toll free 1-888-970-9329.
Smoke a cigarette and lie some more.
Emails talk@wday.com. Let's see, Kyle, we've had David Owen on by himself. We've had Bob Wheatfield was in here. A week or two ago, we had him in here. Of course, David is with Legalize ND. He wrote Measure 3. Bob is with he's the chair of the group North Dakotans Against the Legalization of Recreational Marijuana. We've had these two in here separately. We've had we've had Mark Freese in here. We've had Mark Freese debating who's the attorney out of California?
I believe the attorney you had on was Jordan Parker.
Jordan Parker, we had him on. Let's see, who else have we had on? We've had listeners nonstop, calls on Measure 3, and now we are going to have the two groups in here together, for and against. And I called it a debate, but I'm not really treating this, gentleman, like a debate. And this is, I'm just going to let you guys go ahead and talk to each other. I mean, I'll throw some questions, some comments out there. For the callers, if you want to call, if you have a question or comment, you're welcome to do so. But I don't want you coming on here and think you're going to get 10, 15 minutes to just go ahead and wax all. That's not going to happen. If you have a question, you want to make a comment, make it. Go ahead and do that. And don't call and be reading some talking points from wherever. Just we want it from you. Your thoughts on it or your questions, we want them coming from you. And again, the numbers are 293-9000, toll free 1-888-970-9329. Bob, I'm gonna start with you. Just tell folks a little bit about the organization you're chairing.
It's a coalition of various organizations in the state, all of whom are very, very concerned about this measure. Because if this measure passes, we're going to have marijuana that's unlimited, uncontrolled, and unlicensed all over North Dakota. And we're going to have marijuana as the supreme law of the land, because any measure in the Century Code that is opposed to marijuana is nullified and repealed by the last provision of this measure.
David, now, to what Bob is saying, is some of my concerns have been the way it is written when it comes to DUIs, because the way that it's written, I know Attorney Mark Freese has been in here, and it's basically you cannot be, arrested for nonviolent crimes.
So there's a little bit
DUI is a nonviolent crime.
There's a little bit of a debate here. It depends on whether you want to use common law or statutory law. So under the common law interpretation, we create a series of listed activities defined as nonviolent marijuana-related activity. And I believe we specifically use growing, manufacture, distribution, and possession. So we're creating a clear list of things related or involved with the consumption and use of marijuana. As a result, the DUI statute remains unchanged, and it would actually be the strictest DUI law in the nation.
Why would it be stricter?
Because other states, let's look at alcohol for a second. In alcohol, if you blow a .07, okay, let's pretend, and you're swerving all over the road, it's very hard to give you a DUI because you're below that magic number. With marijuana, if it's any amount or any combination of it and any other substance which causes you to be impaired in any way, you now can be pulled over and given that DUI immediately. It doesn't matter if you're at 0.0000 whatever, or if you're at point whatever. As long as the officer thinks it has sufficiently impaired you to drive the vehicle, you are given a DUI. End of discussion.
Okay, you're given one there, but when it's time to go to court, is it not going to be easy for a lawyer just to have this thing tossed out? Well, wait a minute, this is a nonviolent crime.
No, because the nonviolent portion creates a list that is comprehensive and is designed to talk about the distribution, manufacturing, consumption of marijuana, not the other activities. Furthermore, the Century Code itself says that simply because a substance has been legalized does not count as a defense against a driving under the influence charge.
Bob, you want to respond to that?
Yes, I do.
I'm going to let you two go at it.
That's fine. I totally disagree. My position is that it is going to be legal to drive under the influence of marijuana because any prohibition in the Century Code is nullified and repealed as to marijuana. And this is, we are dealing with the North Dakota Century Code. This law seeks to amend the Century Code. What it's going to do, if it passes, is going to take marijuana and take it off the list of scheduled drugs. So he's right. It'll no longer be illegal in any volume, quantities. So we're having unlimited, unlicensed, unregulated marijuana. There are no provisions for any kind of control or legislation whatsoever. This law goes into effect if it's passed on December 6th. Good luck getting any changes made by the time the legislature gets into session.
293-9000, toll free 1-888-970-9329. Email talk at WDAY.com. The other concerns people have, David, is unlimited amount people can have.
So unlimited possession makes sense when you think about it in regards to agriculture. Okay? Let's imagine that you have a harvest and you planted an acre of marijuana, which is a fairly modest amount for a North Dakota farm. Average North Dakota farm is about 400 acres, approximately. The slightly larger ones are about a section of land, which is 640 acres. So 1 acre of land, and it's hard to control the harvest. On an entire acre, let's imagine under what they're proposing. They would say you can only have so many pounds. Well, if you have a good harvest, and you're a farmer, that's what you want, right? You want a good harvest. Well, if there's an artificial limit on how much you can possess, you could literally have to burn your crop in the fields, which is not good for agriculture. The goal of this is to make it so that people who want to grow it can grow it and get it to market in a way that makes sense.
Do you think farmers are going to stop growing whatever crop they're growing now and go ahead and just start growing marijuana?
Well, there's a reason that I said an acre, Jay, because I think it's a hedge crop. I think what it is it's a crop that you plant as if it hits, it hits. If it misses, it misses. It's kind of like how hemp used to be treated, a bumper crop. So you probably plant a couple acres of it around your farm, maybe 1 acre if you're on a smaller farm. And depending on how it does, great, it's a bonus. If not, that's fine because you're not having a big risk on it. Basically what it's going to be is like a bonus. It's going to be, potentially, if it comes out well, worth more than the rest of the field combined on a 400-acre plot.
Yeah, so it's not going to be an acre. There's going to be unlimited. They can grow as much as they want, and they're going to be outfits coming here to North Dakota to plant and grow marijuana so they can ship it out of state. You watch. That's what's going to happen with unlimited marijuana. Farmers, probably we ought to sell it as an economic boon for farmers because they can grow all the marijuana they want, but it is unlimited, unlicensed, uncontrolled marijuana, and that's what's going to happen if Measure 3 comes into effect.
Why are we doing it so unlimited here in the state of North Dakota? When I say unlimited, I mean the whole measure in itself, because this is not like Colorado or California or Washington. I mean, this is pretty wide open measure.
The reason we're doing it unlimited is because I believe in individual freedom, and I believe that the people in North Dakota are going to know best. Bob mentions all these big corporations coming in and growing marijuana to export out of the state. Corporate farming is illegal in this state. You can't have a corporate farm. You can't have a farm in this state owned by more than 15 people. So there is no way for a corporate group to come in and start farming. That being said, I don't want to tell a farmer how to farm their land. I don't want to tell them you can only plant 10 plants on an acre. It doesn't make sense.
How about those little marijuana farmers that come in with their Luigi and Alfonso come in to start some production? Whole point is it's illegal. You're right. In every other state that has legalized marijuana, there are limits, there are restrictions, there's a revenue source, there's rules, there's regulations. There's absolutely none of that that's going to be under Measure 3 if it passes. It's going to be a disaster for the state of North Dakota.
Listen, guys, hang on. I'm going to take a break, then we're going to get to the calls because we've got a bunch of calls lined up here that want to talk. As a matter of fact, my phone lines are full right now. Well, one just dropped off, so if you're trying to get through, call now. You will get in. 293-9000, toll-free 1-888-970-9329. The email's talk@WDAY.com. Mike, when we come back in Bismarck, you're going to be first. And we got Andrew here in Fargo. We got Jim in Fargo. We got Robert in Williston. And I got one open line. I got some emails. Now I got full lines. When we come back, your phone calls. Chair Bob Weefeld of the North Dakotans Against the Legalization of Recreational Marijuana is in studio. Also, David Owen with Legalize ND. And also, he's the writer of Measure 3. We'll be voting on it November 6th. And this will, if it passes, this will make recreational marijuana legal in the state of North Dakota, and it has to go into effect in 30 days, right, David?
So the state constitution mandates that the portion that goes into effect in 30 days is the portion about unlimited grow, distribution, manufacturing, possession. The sealing of records does not go into effect until January 6th.
All right,
It goes into effect on the 6th of December. That's what it says in the measure. The law goes into effect on December 6th, period.
The sealing,
and all the expungement has to be done by December 6th.
Incorrect, Bob. The expungement specifically lists that it has 30 days after the law is enacted in the measure as written. That is January 6th.
And as written, it's enacted when the voters approve it.
All right, guys, hold on. We'll let you two come back and battle this one out when we come back. So I got to take a break, and I got a ton of calls to get to. 293-9000, toll free 1-888-970-9329. Email talk@wday.com. More with my guests and your phone calls and emails. They're all next. This is the Jay Thomas Show. 320 Jay Thomas Show, 293-9000.
Mind strong, body strong. Try to find equilibrium. Head straight, screwed on. We screwed up for too long. I don't wanna leave.
293-9000, toll free. It's 1-888-970-9329. Email talk, wday.com. In studio with me, David Owen. He's with Legalize ND, wrote Measure 3, also chairman of North Dakotans Against the Legalization of Recreational Marijuana, Bob Weefeld in studio. Okay, Jim, I'll let you, before I get to the calls, I'll let you two finish what you were debating about before we went into the break, and I believe, it was about
the due date specifically.
due date for...
So I think we reached an agreement during the break. I can't speak for you.
I'm not sure, but he's pointed out that the law goes into effect on December 6th, and then the expungement has to be by January 6th. It's way, way too much anyway. The problem with expungement is whether you had a joint or a truckload of marijuana, you're entitled to be expunged, and I think that's ridiculous.
See, I think it's justice. I think that if you're going to legalize unlimited possession, unlimited manufacturing, and unlimited growth, so long as you're not selling to a minor, because we do not seal records for selling to minors. As long as you are selling to a consenting adult and you're going through the process of doing that, which requires transport, it requires manufacture, it requires distribution, I don't have a problem with sealing that record. I think it's justice. If we as a society say that a substance should now be legal, which is presumably what we'll do if we vote yes on Measure 3, because I don't think anybody doesn't understand they're voting yes on recreational marijuana, then it's only just that we seal the records for something that's now legal.
Yeah.
You shouldn't bear a black mark on... Excuse me, should I please finish?
Well,
Yeah, let him finish, Bob.
It is only fair that once a society decides that something should be legal, you should not have to bear the black mark of something for the rest of your life when society has said it's okay.
Go ahead, Bob.
well, I was going to say that with respect to recreational marijuana, we're talking about little joints and small amounts. This law, if it passes, is going to be Katie bar the door. You can grow as much as you want, have as much as you want, anywhere you want to have it, and you can smoke marijuana in public places.
Can you smoke in public places with this measure?
This is another point of contention, and our attorneys assert no, that you cannot, for a similar reason. It comes back to a fundamental disagreement on whether or not the nonviolent marijuana-related activity should be taken as common law or as a statutory interpretation. We've asserted that it's common law. It's going to be up to the courts. If it's as we interpret it and as we've intended, and as I've gone on the record numerous times saying, because legislative intent here is very important, what will happen is the following. They will say, this is an anti-smoking ordinance that targets any flammable substance which produces a smoke that can have an adverse effect on an individual. It's why when vaping or e-cigarettes were first invented, they didn't need to change the public smoking laws, because technically...
It wasn't tobacco.
Right. It wasn't tobacco, but it was still covered under the smoke ban. So therefore, as a result, marijuana would be covered similarly. So no, you can't smoke in public under our interpretation and under the precedent of the vaping laws.
Well, let me argue with that. His lawyers are out-of-state lawyers. I know of no North Dakota lawyers who support that position. We have North Dakota lawyers who say smoking in public marijuana is going to be illegal. Driving under the influence of marijuana is going to be illegal. I don't know of any North Dakota lawyers that say that support his position.
Let me grab some calls here, guys. We got callers who've been waiting quite a while to get on the program. Let's start with Mike out in Bismarck. Mike, thanks for hanging on. You're up on a Jay Thomas Show.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jay. I guess I'm just really concerned about listening to this back and forth and all the different views of this whole measure. I mean, who drafted this and what qualified them to do so? And then secondly, why? I mean, there are measures out there that have passed that have had some pretty good laws to them. Why didn't we follow the same path in North Dakota?
Well, the gentleman that drew this up is sitting right here, David Owen. You can ask him.
So,
yeah, and I will. And what
he's right here.
qualified him to do it, I guess? I mean, why wouldn't you take something that's already out there working instead of creating this kind of a debate?
well, the problem with taking something that's already out there is it wasn't designed for North Dakotans by North Dakotans. North Dakota has a unique perspective and has a unique situation compared to the other states that legalized. First off, we're much more free market. We're much more laissez-faire than those other states, and we're proud of that. We're business friendly. We're regulatory friendly. So that's the first portion. The second portion is you need to address the agricultural portion, because what's good for farmers is ultimately good for this state. And we wanted to make sure this was a bill that was good for farmers and allowed them to do what they needed to do. As for the credentials, we've had multiple different attorneys from multiple different states where it's been legalized consult with us on this.
Did you have any attorneys from the state of North Dakota help you on this? And if not, why not?
We had attorneys who looked at it, but were not willing to go on the record because they didn't want their names brought through it. They were afraid of disbarment, was the honest answer.
From the state of North Dakota, not one attorney in North Dakota you talked to would not help you guys out.
We talked to 4 different attorneys in North Dakota, all of whom looked at it and all of whom confirmed our opinions and our out-of-state views on it.
Mike, appreciate the phone call. I got an open line call now. You will get in. Andrew Fargo, thanks for hanging out. Jay Thomas Show.
Thank you.
You got a terrible connection. You're going to have to try back there, buddy. Let's go to, Jim, you're up on a Jay Thomas Show at Fargo.
Hey, I guess I got one statement. If when the medical marijuana was passed, if legislature wouldn't have put their head in the sand for 2 years, this wouldn't even be going on. So you could talk to all your friends, Bob, out in Bismarck and say, here you go, fix it. Well, I think the state of North Dakota and its residents will fix it. We're sick of the people dragging their toes. There's people that need this medical marijuana, kids convulsing, cancer patients. If anybody in Bismarck had a lot of family with this problem, I think things would have gone a little bit faster. It just seems like they don't care. We spoke, and they don't do nothing about it.
Bob,
So now,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Bob, and I can't disagree with them because that's the sentiment from a lot of people. They're pissed because they feel that the lawmakers in the state drug their feet or drug their feet on them.
I think the Attorney General is going to come out soon with a statement, but the medical marijuana is pretty much ready to go. Here's the question. Analogy. If my dad didn't paint the room the way I wanted, do I burn down the house to make it even with him?
It depends
No.
how bad he painted it.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're burning down the house.
If a man grows a acre of marijuana on his land or 4 acres, what is that going to do to your life? That's his. How is that going to affect your life?
It's going to affect my life because marijuana is going to be smoked in public, used in public. People are going to drive with it. I'm a citizen. I'm going to be run over by these people. School kids are going to be exposed to marijuana. You can smoke it anywhere you want. This is going to be a bad law for North Dakota. We need rules. We need regulations. This law does not provide for any of that.
All right, I'm going to let you address that.
So I want to say something here. When medical marijuana was passed, it was said this law is too specific. This law has too many things. It has too many moving parts. It's too hard. It's too complicated. We can't go in and change it at all because one small change will render the entire thing, and it's all interdependent. And so we created a bill that's very loose that allows for the state to make some changes, but also keeps a very core premise intact. And that is on December 6th, if you want to get marijuana for medicine, for whatever purpose you so desire, as long as you're not giving it to a child, you're able to have your medicine. Measure 3 is the only and best way to get marijuana before Christmas as it currently stands. And as for the fact the Attorney General has said...
before Christmas, what do you want before Christmas?
As a Christmas present, everybody's going to have marijuana for Christmas. It's going to be really great.
The point is, I'm willing to give a hard deadline on where it will be available if my measure is passed and if the people vote on this. Whereas Bismarck in 2016 said it would be available in 2017. In 17, they said 18.
And
in
we're still
18,
waiting
they
for
said 19. Why should I believe in 19 it won't be 20?
Well, I'm going to tell you guys. I'm going
to say this
Okay,
about
go
medical
ahead.
marijuana. The problem is this: with your particular position, people get marijuana. Medical marijuana is going to be in such a way that it's going to prescribe a medical prescription for it.
Yeah.
For the people have to know what the amount of TCH is in it. It has to be controlled so that they get the proper dosage for their doctor. And it's not just going out and buying a joint and smoking it. That's not medical marijuana.
Bob, before I go to a break here, real quick, do you think that if recreational marijuana passes here, that the state's just going to go to hell in a handbasket?
Yes, I do.
You really do?
I
You think
do.
it's going to be that bad? Do you think all of a sudden all these people are going to just start smoking marijuana because it's legal?
I think of the people smoking it be all over the place. I think if you look at the example of Colorado, it's a big mess down there. On Sunday, he was talking to a guy from Colorado Springs. He said, I voted for the marijuana thing, and I'm really sorry I did. It's all over the
But
place.
I've had people on this program from Colorado as well that have said the opposite, that they've just seen no difference at all.
All I can tell you is the people I've talked to said it's a real difference.
All right, hold on, gentlemen. Let me take a break here. We come back. I believe it's going to be Eric. Here's how we're going to roll. Eric in Fargo, and then we're going to go to Robert in Williston. Then we got Sarah in Bismarck, Greg in Fargo, and Jeff in Detroit Lakes. Everybody hang on. More of the Jay Thomas Show. Add your emails coming up. Okay, it's 3037. Jay Thomas Show, 293-9000. Toll free 1-888-970-932. Before I get to the phones, let me get some of these emails in here. I'm trying to find ones that actually have some questions. Let's see. Okay, here's one. Here's one with an actual question. Jay, one of my concerns is living in an apartment where people can be smoking in it, which would affect me. Will it be covered by the no smoking laws?
It will be covered, one, by the no smoking laws. Yes, it will. And two, landlords are free to set their own policies. Much like a business owner can say, if we want to drug test you, we still can. An apartment owner can say you cannot smoke in the apartments and enforce the existing policies.
Yeah, I agree that the owners of businesses can control this. But I'm telling you, my interpretation, I believe I'm correct, smoking marijuana is not going to be illegal in public places.
But
there's not going to be any prohibition against it.
For this particular person's concerns, we can both agree that in his apartment, if the landlord sets an anti-smoking policy, marijuana would be included in that at the landlord's prerogative.
And if the landlord doesn't, he can smoke in his apartment. He can smoke outside, he can smoke on the streets, anywhere. Marijuana.
Bob, I got to go back to, you're painting this picture of absolute reefer madness in the state of North Dakota. You really think that's going to happen?
Well, we over-exaggerate, but it's going to be a lot of problems.
Don't over-exaggerate, because that's not helping your guys' cause. When you're saying, oh my God, it's going to be, everybody's going to be smoking a pub. Do you really think that we're going to just see people walking down the street smoking marijuana?
I do.
All over the place?
I think we are going to see people walking down the street smoking marijuana. I do.
Do you think that we are going to have a lot more people getting nailed for DUIs or driving under the influence of marijuana?
I don't think so, because it's not going to be illegal.
Well, they'll still get pulled over. It'll go to court, and then it'll be for the lawyers to fight out. But I do believe, David, that the way this is written, that this is going to be a heyday for lawyers in court.
It is,
and I believe Attorney Mark Freese, when he was on, felt the same way. Because I asked him right out. I said, Mark, the way this is written, and I trust Mark, the way that this is written, Mark, if a client came to you and got pulled over for a DUI because they were smoking marijuana, do you think you could beat this or win this thing in court? And I believe Mark's answer was, yeah.
Well, take defense attorneys' claims of what they can and can't beat with a grain of salt. Mark Freese is a great man, but he is fundamentally a defense attorney. It's his job to present what he views as the best argument to defend his client. But I don't think any judge in the state of North Dakota is going to look at this, understanding legislative intent, understanding their jurisprudence, and understanding that the list comprises activities specifically for manufacturing use, and come to the conclusions they're coming to. I think that it will be an argument that's tried, and I think it'll be shot down. Just like, as an example, in the medical law, Vogel Law presented at NDSU, and they said that under the medical law, it had said it must be prescribed by a licensed medical practitioner, and the judge ruled that out-of-state, despite the law saying licensed medical practitioner, the judge ruled that because the medical practitioner was not in North Dakota, the intent of the clause was North Dakota doctors, and therefore the client was still found guilty.
So here, let me comment at this, because I'm a judge, a former judge, and I'm going to tell you, judges are going to look at this thing and they say, let's see, marijuana, anything in the Century Code in conflict with it, is hereby nullified and repealed. That's what it is. And DUI, smoking, those are illegal right now, and they're going to get wiped out if this law passes.
All right, let me grab some calls here, guys. Hey, Eric in Fargo, thanks for hanging on. You're up on the Jay Thomas Show.
Actually, Jay, I'm from Moorhead, but I just want to ask a quick question.
Yes.
Basically, the way this is written really concerns me. My question is this: why not have? And my understanding is that the side that's for this marijuana measure has been offered the assistance of an attorney from Vogel Law Firm to rewrite this thing. Why don't we rewrite it? You go back, you get the signatures, you do it the right way, because right now it's so wide open. It is going to create so many loopholes and ways out of things, and we don't know which way is up or down.
All right.
And the legislature is to blame for this, but I would like to see this thing redone.
Eric, appreciate it. He's saying what I brought up last week or a couple weeks ago. I said, why not rewrite this thing? Just can it, rewrite it, sit down with attorneys here in North Dakota and go through all this, get the right language in there, go out, collect the signatures, and just rethrow this thing back on another
problem
ballot.
is-
Hold on, let him answer that, Bob.
So I don't believe that the language is itself flawed. I think it's people who are, quite frankly, looking at it and looking for a reason to go against it and looking at it in a way that is not how it's intended. That being said, we have had no
But hold
offer.
on, let me
Well,
stop you. No, let me stop you for a second. 'Cause that's not the way it's intended. Well, it's one thing what's intended and what is actually.
So, but keep in mind, our attorneys have
Which
told
one?
us it is not read the way that they're reading it. We've had multiple attorneys say this, and people say, look at the out-of-state models, and then they say, why didn't you use the Colorado model? Why didn't you use the Washington model? And then get upset when we used attorneys from the states that had recently legalized. So people have said you need to look at these other states, and you need to use their models and learn from them. Who better to teach us than the out-of-state attorneys in the states that have legalized?
But why
All
would
right,
you have
bottom line.
in-state attorneys here that know North Dakota law because they work it every day? Go ahead, Bob.
Bottom line, this is the measure, flaws and all, that we're voting on November 6th. It's up or down. There's no time to change it, no time to rewrite it. This
Well,
is
you
the law.
can't rewrite it.
So the way to get this done is to defeat this measure. And if these people really want a decent law, try again.
See, I'm against you. I'm a believer that you know what, pass this thing and let the lawmakers go at it. But I've been told by some lawmakers, and I won't mention who they are, but they told me after the beating they took on medical marijuana that they personally they feel that, hey, if this is what North Dakota passes, you live with it. We're not. I don't want to touch it.
I don't think the flaws are there. I think when it goes to the court system, it's going to be determined that ultimately what I'm saying is correct. That being said, if we're wrong, it's very easy to fix. I will personally run the ballot measure to fix it if it turns out that I'm wrong.
Okay,
but I don't think I am.
And by that time, we're going to have wide open marijuana in the state.
Well, I don't think the state's going to be a big fire pit, though,
Well,
Bob.
we're going to have a lot. It's going to be unlimited, uncontrolled, unlicensed, period.
Robert out in Williston, you still hanging on, buddy? You're up on the Jay Thomas Show.
I am, Jay. Thank you. I've been listening to the discussion. I appreciate that. And I guess here's my concern. The way this ballot measure is written, there's no tax provision in it. There's no rules provided in it. There's no regulatory framework. And so if Mr. Owen is so in favor of using the out-of-state models, what I'd like to know is what data exists from Colorado, Washington, and other states with regard to the crime rates, the traffic fatalities, traffic arrests, employment, and homelessness. What data do either side have available so the people of North Dakota actually have some facts with which to make an informed decision on this thing?
So if you look at the per capita crime rates, per capita, which means per person, they are almost all universally down. If you look at the entire state as an aggregate. If you want to cherry pick and look at some specific counties, you can always find an increase, which is what I'm sure the opposition is about to do. But traffic accidents are down or constant. Homelessness is slightly down from when it was legalized. Violent crime per capita is slightly down from when it was legalized. And the most important
What state are you referring to?
you asked about Colorado, I believe, yes? So I was answering.
Any of the states.
Well,
Absolutely.
once he gets through, let me talk about this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Go ahead.
So Colorado specifically, violent crime is down per capita. Driving fatalities and all that are down per capita. But what's most important to me is, according to the Journal of American Medical Association, opioid abuse and overdose deaths are down 25% in states that legalize. So we see a decrease in homelessness slightly. We see a decrease in violent crime slightly. We see a slight decrease to no change in traffic incidences. But we also see a 25% decrease in opioid abuse and overdoses in a state and in a country that is facing an opioid epidemic right now.
All right, can I talk now about this thing? The most recent thing I have is September 2018 from the Rocky Mountain High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area, and they talk about this. Marijuana-related traffic deaths have increased 151% in Colorado versus all deaths, 35%. Traffic deaths involving people using marijuana more than doubled. Percentage of all traffic deaths related to marijuana has increased from 11.43% in 2013 to 21.3% in 2017. The list goes on. All the indicators are worse under legalized marijuana.
Now let me say something. Robert, appreciate the phone call. Let me, Rob Port did some digging, and he had an article he had up today at sayanythingblog.com, also on inform.com. And he found a piece from Professor Sam, I think it's Kamen, professor of marijuana law and policy at the University of Denver. And he pointed this out. And he brings up a good point when it comes to, because I can go online and I can find statistics that are in favor of recreational marijuana, medical marijuana. I can go online and find statistics from that same state that say how horrible it is. He says part of the problem of describing what's changing in Colorado is identifying time periods to compare. Colorado passed a constitutional amendment authorizing medical marijuana in 2000, saw an explosion of medical dispensaries beginning in 2009, regulated those dispensaries in 2010, approved recreational marijuana by initiative in 2012, and opened adult use marijuana stores in 2014. When trying to determine the before period to compare to the post-legalization period, which of these is the appropriate date? Both those in favor of marijuana legalization and those opposed to it pick and choose data to support their position. Denver's district attorney stated that legalization has led to an increase in murders, car thefts, robberies, and home invasions, while another study released just a few months later argued that there was no increase taking place. So these studies are hard to use. You just can't depend. They're like polls. You know, I mean, let's be honest. The Forum does a poll. The poll comes back. A majority of people, they want recreational marijuana. Oddly Advertising, Pat Finken, who's a very good friend of mine, they do a poll. The poll comes back. Most people don't want it. Well, that's because a majority of those calls were made on damn landlines. I did the most scientific poll you could ever do was mine. I did it on Facebook. And mine came back basically...
North Korean levels of approval.
It's pretty much. I mean, yeah, the approval was high up there. So I don't. Yes, I'm not saying that you can't take into account the statistics that are out there, but I think it's just too. It's too soon to tell because at least in Colorado, there's been different levels and steps as to when things were put into place. All right, let me get back to more calls here because they've been waiting forever. Hey, Sarah, you're up on the Jay Thomas Show.
Hey, my concern is I've got kids in high school, and it's just the access that they will have to have marijuana if this is passed. It's my understanding that there's no regulation, so it can be on the gas station shelves right next to a candy bar.
No.
You know, alcohol, we have put it behind a counter in a segregated spot, and I guess mine is just having access to that and edibles and all of that.
Hold on, let me stop you there. If I go over to my local convenience store, this passes. I want to go buy some joints. Are they going to be sitting there next to the candy bars?
No, they're going to be behind the counter.
How do you know that?
Because they're going to have to do an ID check in order to sell it to you, and they're going to face severe criminal penalties if they do sell to a minor.
Good point.
So basically, it's going to say you have to check to be over 21 to purchase marijuana. You have to be over 21. Arguably, it's easier to get cigarettes than it is to get marijuana under this.
Or alcohol, for that matter, too.
Right. And basically, right now, the way marijuana works is your dealer doesn't ID you. If you want to get marijuana right now, what you do is you call a buddy who calls a buddy, and it's delivered to you. You don't know what you're getting. You don't know even if you're getting marijuana. In a lot of cases, you're not.
Well, that's one thing.
That same thing's going to keep on in the new law because anybody can grow it, anybody can sell it.
But here's the thing, Bob.
Yeah.
Bob and Sarah. It is so easy to get it now. People think that it's this product, this drug that you just you got to do this, you got to do. It's real hard to get your hands on. I'm telling you, you can get it right now. Quick, easy. It's not hard to get your hands on. It's just not. Let's see who's next. Greg, you're up. Jay Thomas Show in Fargo.
Hey Jay,
Hey.
love the fact, love your show.
Thanks,
You're
man.
doing a great job.
Thank
Way
you.
to go with this. Question is for Bob. First of all, I did hear just earlier, employers still are by law. They can say they can still do drug tests, and you can work for that company. They can still not hire you if you test positive for marijuana. Is that
That's
correct,
correct.
Corey?
That's correct.
Okay. So, how many jobs? Every job I've worked over here in Fargo since I moved over here 25 years ago, I've had to do a drug test. So what you're telling me, Bob, that all of a sudden we're going to have the Fargo Marathon 10,000 people walking down the street smoking joints? I mean, everybody's got a job that they still got to follow the drug laws.
Yeah, I don't know how many
Good
people
point.
are walking down the street smoking marijuana, but I believe there will be some.
Well, the way you're talking, you're saying, everybody's going to be walking down Broadway smoking a joint.
There's already some people
everything
walk down
what
the streets
you're
with
saying
alcohol
is
in
doom
their
and
hand.
gloom, and you don't have, every person has a job. Most likely, I'm going to say it's got to be 75, 80% that have drug testing.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't had I haven't ever been drug tested because I just haven't been in that kind of a position. But I can tell you this: there's going to be more.
So when you
use
were a
of- there's
judge,
gonna
you
be more use of
were criminal
marijuana.
and everything else. You never had to go through a drug testing to become part of the law firm.
No.
And that right,
Okay.
Oh, hold on. Go ahead.
that right there is
Go ahead, Jay.
that right there is the double standard, isn't it? The reality is government employees are treated differently than regular employees, and the world Bob is coming from is the laws didn't apply to him. The regular work world didn't apply because he didn't get drug tested. I can tell you, you're
Now,
right.
this is that's up to an individual employer. It's not a mandate that people have to do
I've
this.
worked for many
Individual
big
employees.
employers and as well as small employers, and I still have gotten drug tested at every single place to know that I didn't test positive for marijuana or whatever, so I could have that job.
So,
Well, that's a decision of the employer.
Greg, appreciate the phone call. Let's go to Jeff in Detroit Lakes. Jeff, quickly, Jay Thomas Show.
Yep. I want to say to first Bob and Sarah that
Sarah.
it's already around
called.
you.
She
it's
called.
everywhere. And the other thing is, Bob, it's THC, not TCH. And you
Oh,
said that
my bad.
3
I'm
times.
sorry.
Which
My
tells me
bad.
that you're
Whoops. I
misinformed.
apologize.
So do your homework.
He did
And
his.
I'm not a user. No, I'm not. I live in Minnesota. But I'm just saying,
Hold it.
you
What
might
does
want to
using
do
living
some
in
more
Minnesota have to
research.
do with anything?
And it's far less likely that a guy who's smoking a joint is going to come home and beat his wife.
All right, Jeff, appreciate the
Let me
phone
tell
call.
you,
So
I've
you
never
said
been around
TCH,
anybody
whatever, doesn't
smoking
matter. You
marijuana.
know
I've never been around it.
You know you meant THC. That's no big deal there. Hey, Devin in Fargo, Jay Thomas Show.
can I say something real quick?
Yeah,
Jay?
hold on, Devin, go ahead.
Hey, Jay, I just want to make a comment to Bob. It seems like listening to him, it seems like he really likes to over-dramatize and over-animate the utter chaos and just the clutterness that he thinks is going to happen in North Dakota. And unless you've lived in California or Colorado, I don't see how, Bob, you are in any position to make those insinuations. And it really seems like you are in desperate pleas by over-dramatizing and over-animating what's actually going to happen. And I think that's a big slap in the face of the citizens of North Dakota.
Hold on.
There's a polls show overwhelming support for this.
Well, mine did. Bob, go ahead. I'll let you address that, Bob.
Well, I don't know what the polls show. I haven't seen any polls on this thing. All I can tell you is that I've talked to people from these other states, and they're a problem. It's a problem, and people don't like it. And I think people in North Dakota are not going to like unlimited, uncontrolled, unregulated marijuana.
So,
And I'm going to tell you this. I have talked to law enforcement, and I know folks in law enforcement that have told me straight up that actually they really don't care if this passes. Actually, it would probably be better. They just don't feel like this whole marijuana thing. The marijuana laws, making these buses, it's not accomplishing anything. So I've heard law enforcement tell me that they are adamantly against this. I'm just saying, not all law enforcement is against this. Brandon, would you say, Kyle, 2 minutes left? Okay, Brandon, Jamestown, Jay Thomas Show.
Hey, how you doing, Jay?
What's
I'm
up?
your neighbor, Brandon.
Oh, okay, Brandon, you got to go fast, though, dude, because I'm about out of time.
hi, Brandon.
Well, I just want to say, listen, I'm doing time right now because of treating my wife's cancer with cannabis. There is an absolute backwards-looking circumstance right now, given the entire situation and what you've got. Your guy Bob on there is feeding obvious reefer madness propaganda attacks which aren't working because people like my wife and I have been doing a very good job at helping people get educated and learning the truth about it. That we're dealing with a plant here that we've evolved with. So, yeah, and when it comes down to it, we can get together and we can talk some numbers on what they're doing because I'm sitting in treatment for having a prescription for cannabis.
Yeah, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Right. They just spent $20,000 on me sitting in treatment because I use cannabis responsibly and medicinally and with a legal prescription,
All right.
It just wasn't from North Dakota. And I'm in here for treating my wife's cancer. They tried to put her in prison for treating herself.
Brandon, appreciate the phone call. I'm out of time. Guys, we're out of time. Hey, callers hanging on. I'll take your calls. Don't hang up. I'll still take your calls.
Stay.
You want to stay? If you
Hey,
stay,
that's not fair.
Well,
We got an hour deal. We both got to have the time, and I've got to go.
okay, well then we'll do this. Will you come back next week?
Will I come back next week?
Because we definitely need more time with you two.
I'm going to be back in town. We'll talk to Norm, see what we
All
do.
right, we'll talk. Norm, I'll set something up with
Well,
you.
Jay, I told you I'd be available all day, so if
Okay, here's what we'll do. You can stay, but you cannot mention Bob. You cannot mention his group.
Got it.
Okay?
That's fair.
People cannot call up and rip on Bob. If you're going to stay, you can simply ask David questions regarding the measure. I will not take any calls that are going to rip on Bob's organization or talk about Bob. No, if you want to call, then it's a question for David and David only, and that's it.
You have my word, Bob. I'll agree to that.
News weather coming up, Jay Thomas Show. Guests are going to hang out. All right, no Lonnie Dodd today. We were going to hold David over, and then Bob says, "You know what? Nope, I'm gonna stay as well." And I appreciate it. And Bob, I want to tell you right now, I would have been fair. I would not have taken any calls. Anybody saying anything about you, anything about your organization, if you would not have hung out and David would have stayed, and I would have had you back in here to give you equal time that David would have got as well. Just so you know. Just so you know that. Okay, if you're just tuning into the program, my guest in studio, he's the chair, Bob Weefald, judge. North Dakota is against the legalization of recreational marijuana. Also, David Owen is in studio. He's with Legalize ND and also the writer of Measure 3. And we're debating the measure, taking your phone calls. Again, if you got a question, try to get to it as soon as you can, because we've got a lot of people waiting to get on. I haven't even really touched the emails yet. And you folks that are emailing the program, I'm not ignoring you. I'm trying to weave these in. So just bear with me, okay? One of the emails I want to get to, Bob Weefald is a former Attorney General of North Dakota and a longtime former district judge. He spent his career interpreting North Dakota law. When he says this will legalize public smoking of pot and it will legalize driving while high on pot, you can take that to the bank. I disagree with Judge Weefald on the policy issue. Possessing and using small amounts of pot should be legal. We had 4 North Dakota lawyers agree with us, but we can't name them. And that's for you, David. Saying we had 4 North Dakota lawyers agree with us, but we can't name them. What? You're lying.
No, unfortunately.
Hold on, let him finish.
People shouldn't accuse people of lying. That's ridiculous.
Unfortunately, lawyers do not put their names behind things, usually unless they're either being paid or they are a very strong advocate in favor of it. The whole doctrine of a lot of things when you get free legal advice is that they are not held responsible for the result of that advice. Is a general standard.
Bob,
well, let me tell you, I'm not being paid, but of course I don't have a law license anymore. I gave that up when I left the bench, and I've been perfectly happy ever since.
Yes, to say you're happy. You're happier now, aren't you?
I'm just doing great. Absolutely.
This is for you, Bob. Email. Doesn't it make more sense, Bob, to pay a neighbor or legitimate business for marijuana than give the money to a drug cartel?
You know, it's marijuana. I can't tell you if it makes more sense than the other, but I did learn something new here today.
What's that?
This is a farm bill. I didn't realize it was a farm bill.
What do you mean it's a farm bill?
He said it's good for farmers. The farmers can make a lot of money. They got cash crops. Acre of marijuana is going to be more money than their whole wheat crop. So I've learned all about this.
Let's get into that. Let me grab. I got a couple. Hold on. Let me take these 2 callers first because they've been waiting forever, guys. And then let's get into the tax revenue and the economics of this whole thing. And again, my guests have held over in the 4 o'clock hour. If you got a question or comment, 293-9000. Toll free 1-888-970-9329. Let's go to Brett out in Devil's Lake. He's been waiting forever. Hey, Brett, thanks for hanging on here up on the Jay Thomas Show.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to bring up a couple of different things. On the list of pre-approved medical conditions for medical cannabis in North Dakota, that does not include depression or anxiety, for instance. And I know myself, a while ago, I was given a prescription for Xanax along with other depression medicines that made me a completely worthless member of society.
You're a zombie.
Actually, so fortunately I got off of those, and you know, frankly, it is cannabis that that got me off of those things. And so, I just like to point out that under the medical law, I wouldn't legally be able to use it, but under the recreational law, I can. The other thing is the medical law in North Dakota was written in such a way now that it's almost going to be too expensive to afford the stuff if you do qualify. They're limited to grow 1,000 plants. There's a huge licensing fee. It's going to be very, very expensive. So I know in the case of like my grandparents in Minnesota, they have medical qualifying conditions, but they cannot afford it at the dispensaries there because in that state too, they also put the bar very high on what could be sold and how it was regulated, and you're not allowed to grow your own, stuff along those lines.
It's very
so that's a pretty big concern.
There's limited access to it, is what you're saying. That is also driving up the price.
Yeah, and also I will point out too that I'm actually a doctor. I'm a cancer researcher as of now, and I'm reading all kinds of cancer research coming out about this. And to a certain extent, I believe that a full spectrum cannabis can actually be a very effective cancer preventative medicine, along with even potentially actually just THC on its own as a chemotherapy reagent, replacing some of the other nastier ones. So I have a feeling a lot of pharmaceutical companies out there, they're backing the no votes.
Of course they
and have some money tied up in this for a reason.
Yeah, these pharmaceuticals don't want this to happen. This is a huge hit to them. And let's not forget, these pharmaceutical companies are the one that put this country in the terrible opioid position that we're in right now. They lied about the potency of these drugs. They lied about what these drugs are going to do to people. The pharmaceutical companies hold a lot of and that's why states are suing them now. They hold a lot of responsibility in what the hell's going on in this country right now. Heather, Fargo, Jay Thomas Show.
Jay, thanks for taking my call. Great conversation. I would like to respond to Bob. No, Bob, marijuana is not marijuana. It's not all the same, and it's important to know where the source is. Second of all, at the very beginning of this conversation, have we cleared up any of the misinformation that may have been put out in terms of how long the time is for the expungement of the records?
We didn't get to that, but I thought we cleared that up when you were here last time, Bob, because I believe Attorney emailed the show. We were arguing, remember, back and forth about the 30 days.
The argument was how long it could be.
Yeah, that's what it was.
It was that it had to be done within the time specified. What David has pointed out today is that there's an extra 30 days. Okay.
So, well, it's a good question. Thanks for bringing it up because I completely blocked that out, or blanked it out, I should say, Heather. Okay.
Yeah, it's just another bit of misinformation that I would love to have cleared up. I'm very firmly yes on Measure 3, the entrepreneurship opportunities that we could expand to our citizens. It's not a farm bill, Bob, with all due respect. It's an opportunity for North Dakota farmers, which is a whole other conversation that is in and of itself. Loosen up our jails and our court systems, and an alternate to opioids and the medical benefits, which we've already discussed.
All right, Heather, appreciate it. I'm gonna bring this up. Let's bring this up to David again. Then we'll get to the. Okay, so David, so this thing passes. The way that the measure is written, the expungement, does that mean within 30 days, or let's say 60 days? Let's give you 60 days. Within 60 days, does everybody's records have to be expunged, or does that mean within 60 days you have to start that process?
The process must be completed by November, I believe, 6th, because January 6th.
Wow,
January.
boy, that's really fast.
I'm sorry. I'm blanking on my dates.
2 months.
2 months. January 6th. And the Attorney General's office has said that it's doable, and they've created a budget to do it. They said that it would cost roughly $1.1 million on their end. And what really shocked me...
It was 179,000 records, I think is what it was, something like that.
That's what shocked me, is there's 179,000 records out there for non-violent marijuana-related activity. Let that sink in.
Okay.
179,000. That's almost 1 in every 4 people.
Now let me ask you, Bob, because you being a former judge, is that doable? Can that be done in 60 days?
I doubt it. I think it's going to be a very, very difficult task. First of all, in terms of expungement, you've got to leave a record anyway. You got to go to the record and say, that date expunged. I don't know what it means. Secondly, you can't expunge the public record. If someone their name's in the form, convicted of marijuana, nothing we can do about that. Can't do that.
Okay.
And plus, we can't touch federal records.
Yeah, you're not touching federal records. So let me ask this. If these records, David, are not expunged in 60 days, then what happens?
What happens is people have the right to file paperwork against the state to make them do it. they have the right to hold the government accountable. Let me put it this way, Jay. If you and I break this arbitrary speeding limit, and I think on 29 the speed limit is fairly arbitrary. If we break it, we're forced to pay a fine. We are held accountable for breaking the law. Whether or not we agree is irrelevant. And the same should hold true to the state. When we say the government should do something, and if the government is never held accountable, they're not going to do it because there's no incentive. We don't want to give bureaucrats the ability to ignore the will of the people again. And the only way to do that is to hold the government accountable to a realistic timeline. Attorney General's office has created a budget and a plan to do it. They know how to do it. They even know the exact number of employees and how many hours it's going to take.
And I'm saying it's really going to be difficult to get it done. Absolutely.
All right, guys, Hans, hang on. You'll be first when we go back to the phones, and I'll try to weave in some more emails here. Let's talk about the tax revenue and the economics of this. David, you and I have gone back and forth on this. I just don't see the way that this is written where all this tax revenue is going to come into the state of North Dakota. Walk us through that. And, Bob, you can jump in on this.
So the way tax revenue works is, first, there is a standard state sales tax of approximately 5%.
Okay.
So 5% of any sales off the top straight to the state. Then there's the local municipalities and all of their taxes. So in the city of Fargo, your sales tax may be 8%.
Yeah, 7%, whatever it is.
That would mean 3% goes to the city. Okay? Now, so we're at a tax rate of 8%. Are you following me, Fargo? Okay. Then there's personal income tax. So the person who makes a living off of selling marijuana will have to pay a personal income tax. That's going to be about 2.9%. So we're at 10.9% from marijuana. Are you following me so far still?
Yep.
Okay. Then there's the corporate income tax rate, which is another 2%. So on every single dollar that comes through the system, the effective tax rate is going to be roughly 14% if you're in Fargo. If you're in Grand Forks, it might be slightly different, but it's going to be between 12 to 14% of every dollar generated off of marijuana goes back to the taxpayer.
Okay, now let me stop you there. Here's where I question this. Where do you think the majority of marijuana sales are going to come from? Are they going to come from Jay selling it to his neighbor? And by the way, I won't be, but me selling it to my neighbor, my buddies, or is it going to come from, let's say Joe's whatever shop is selling marijuana? They're gonna get the tax there.
Well, let me ask you a question, Jay, because this is a fair question. Do you know someone who does homebrew of beer?
Actually, no. I do. No, I don't.
Maybe that's a bad example, but where a lot of people I know.
We have so many breweries around here now. Nobody
a lot of
doing
people.
it anymore.
Well, that's what I was going to go to. A lot of people that I know used to make their own wine and used to make their own beer. I didn't go and buy it from them. I went to the store and bought it because the store-bought stuff came with legal ramifications if it wasn't what it said it was, and you could hold them accountable. Much in the same way will be with marijuana, because if it has anything that's not marijuana in it, the good police officers can do their job and bust it up. You know you're going to get a good, stable supply from a store.
But does that fall under committing a violent crime?
That's not a marijuana-related activity. You're selling not marijuana.
Okay.
You're selling PCP, let's say.
All right. So once that touches marijuana, that completely...
Right, you're prosecuted for...
You're prosecuted for,
for PCP.
All right, my turn.
Okay. Your turn, Bob.
Well, he presumes that, it's going to be just fine. Everything's going to be through individual entrepreneurs who are licensed to collect sales tax. I think that the sales tax, number one, is not going to apply because the sales tax, a tax is a burden on marijuana, and the law says, this reger, that anything that affects marijuana is nullified and repealed. I don't think there's going to be a tax collected. I think, just a minute, let me finish here. And the other thing is, there's no revenue stream built into this bill, absolutely none whatsoever. All the other states that have legalized marijuana have said, here's a special tax we're going to use for special purposes. Nothing in this bill. So what's happening is we're going to have basically no income. The farmers who make it and sell it, they'll probably get some. People are probably going to line their own pockets selling marijuana, but
how
many individuals are going to collect sales tax on their sales?
That's my concern there. I mean, because you can grow as much as you want, have as much as you want, you can sell it. How many people, David, are actually, if they're just growing it at home, selling it to their buddies, friends, they're not going to collect.
Let me give you
tax
another
on it.
example. Tomatoes. You can grow as many tomatoes as you want.
Yep.
You can possess as many tomatoes as you want. How many people do you see selling tomatoes? How many tomato stands do you see? Not too many.
Because they're too many. You have to give them away. There's a great bumper crop of tomatoes this year. Everyone's got tomatoes.
Quite sure there's
And
going to be a bumper crop of marijuana here, too.
According to Bob, though, there's no income stream. That's ridiculous. In fact, in the budgeting report released by the state, they even said that it would be a 5% sales tax.
The state said that.
The state said that in their report. They said we have 5% sales tax plus local municipality taxes plus income tax plus corporate income tax. That's not according to me. That's according to the state of North Dakota.
And this is my interpretation is that is not going to apply. We're not going to be able to collect sales tax. Their stores aren't going to collect it, and the individual dealing it's not going to collect it.
Let me get to some calls here. If you can, go quick, because we only got about 10 minutes left. Hans, you're up, Jay Thomas Show.
Good discussion. Thanks for sticking around, Bob.
Yeah, thank you.
So one thing that I'm wavering on either side of this deal, but the one fact or the one survey that strikes me the hardest is correct me if I'm wrong, 25% reduction in opioid-related deaths and crime, or say that statement again. I know it's 25% reduction.
According to the Journal of American Medical Association, which is a peer-reviewed academic journal, they were also published on, and I believe they're published on PubMed, which means you can look up the study for free. They saw in states that legalized marijuana a 25% drop in opioid overdose deaths, and they believe a similar one for opioid abuse.
I'm looking at one right now, as a matter of fact. 2 new studies. I'm looking at it right now. Where marijuana is legal, opioid prescriptions fall. And this is from the Scientific American.
Okay, that's a different one, but it supports it.
But it just supports it, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's statistics and there's statistics.
So if the proponents of Measure 3 have everything is marketing, and this is a political campaign. If there were a point that wanted to stick hardest on, that's going to ring true to everybody to say, why, yes, we do have an opioid crisis in this state, in this area, this country, and if we can reduce our opioid overdoses by 25% by allowing people to buy and use marijuana, I think that's a home run, and that should be the only talking point you need to use.
Well, on statistics, let me just give you this one from Colorado, that same study. The incidence of marijuana use by younger people is going way up. Colorado, for ages 12 and older, it's third in the nation. It's 85% higher than the national average. There's all kinds of problems.
Let's see who's next here. Ron, you're up on a Jay Thomas Show.
I'm inclined to legalize marijuana. I just don't like the way this measure is written, so I'm going to be voting no against the measure, not against the legalization. I think Mr. Weefald is correct on some of the wording. We found that out with the legislature, their intent to do something, and then because of the wording and the way the wording is, you have to follow what the law would interpret it. And I would agree with the statement that the legislature may think that they can tax it, but somebody's going to challenge it, and a court's going to rule that the way Mr. Weefald has said. And you can split hairs or argue all you want, but I'm giving you an opinion as to why I'm voting no.
And Ron, appreciate the phone call. Some emails here, then back to the calls here. Jay, you kind of hit it on the head yesterday. Can this measure be pulled from the ballot this time? Both sides sit down with North Dakota lawyers and rewrite this measure to address some of the issues that get brought up and put it on the ballot next time. That's what I brought, but I was told the answer is you can't. This can't be pulled.
We're
right?
voting
It's here.
Well,
warts and all.
it cannot be pulled. That being said, the legislature could call a special session on November 7th, and as a result, we could all meet, and if the opposition is good faith, believes that marijuana should be legal but has trouble with the wording, I'd be more than happy to sit down with them in Bismarck when this passes to fix their perceived concerns. I'd be more than happy to do that.
And fix that within 30 days. I don't think it's going to happen. And listen, the legislature has been beat up on this medical marijuana. I don't know what their stomach is for doing this. I'm not sure what the governor would call a special session, but it takes a 2/3 vote to do anything. On both sides. And I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Well, not on both sides, Jay. It takes a 2/3 vote.
House, Senate side.
Of each house, not on the political side. I just want to make sure we're clear on that, because you might sound like 2/3 Republicans, 2/3 Democrats.
No. I mean 2/3 on the House, 2/3 on the Senate.
As far as Bob is saying that he thinks the North Dakotans don't have the will to call a special session. You don't think that everyone's going to agree that if this DUI thing is a problem, that should be nipped in the bud? You don't think that would have widespread support? You don't think that people would be thanking their legislator for looking at the bill? And
Here's my take, guys, on it. If the lawmakers out there, they don't have the stomach or the will to go back and fix what they think are major issues in it, then they can get their asses out of office, because that's what they are elected to do.
I'm telling you, this is not going to happen in 30 days. If it gets, if anything, it'll come up in the session. But the law is already going to go into effect, and there's no way this is going to be stopped after the people have said we want it. It's not going to happen.
Email Jay. What I find extremely irritating and frustrating are all these people that are adamantly against marijuana and speaking as an authority on it when they admit that they've never been around it and they've never done it. It's like trying to convince people that a certain model of a car is horrible, even though they've never been in it or driven it. Whose advice would you rather take, the mechanic or the inexperienced critic? Let's see, another email. Guys, how many people grow their own tobacco? Question mark. It's legal to do. Anyone can do it and sell or give it to their friends. Is that a big problem in North Dakota? Question mark. I grow my own tobacco just for fun, but there's no money to be made in it.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
That's the same as with the tomato argument. You're not going to have the money unless you're in a store. People are going to be opening stores to sell this, and it's going to be the greatest cash crop of our generation.
It's gonna be a big mess crop.
Here's an email. Speaking of crops, Jay, let Bob know if farmers grow it, they won't have trouble with storage like their soybeans. Oh man! Wow. Let's see. Another email comes in. Bob needs to learn that lawyers, doctors, and business owners all over smoke weed today. Bob doesn't understand that insurance companies are the ones that mandate drug tests for employers in higher or lower premiums.
Let me just say I disagree with the notion that everybody's doing it. I just don't think that's true.
Well, not everybody's doing it. I'm not doing it. I mean, if I did it, I'd say I did it. I mean, if I smoke marijuana, I come bust me. I don't have, I'd say, yeah, I smoke pot once in a while, but I just don't. But I do believe that Bob, there are a lot more people out there using marijuana that you realize.
Well,
and I'm not talking just a bunch of stoner, college kids or what. I'm talking doctors, lawyers, business owners. I'm telling you, they're smoking it. They're getting their hands on it now.
The truth of the matter is, I simply don't know, but I don't think that many people are using it.
Email says you can't drink in public. Hold on. You can't drink in public. Should you be able to smoke marijuana in public? I want to hear. Okay, we already discussed the smoking in public. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I want to say something, Bob. If you've never experienced it and you don't think anybody uses it when it's illegal, why would the use skyrocket unless it's actually good for people? People aren't going to go, well, I'm not using it now. It's illegal. So all of a sudden I'm going to go decide to start trying it when it's legal, if it's as terrible as you say it is. Yeah. The reason people are using it now is because it's not horrible. Because it doesn't cause all these problems. It has untold right now medical benefits because we weren't allowed to research it. The amount of benefits of legalization, simply from the perspective of getting people off opioids, from the perspective of helping people who are sick, from the perspective of having people unwind in a way that's much safer than going to the bar and driving home and killing a family of 4.
By the way, this has nothing to do with you guys talking about. I'll let you respond here, Bob. Kyle, will you please write this down? Because, McFeely has his devil's lettuce. We got a new one for the Jay Thomas show. This is great. Jazz cabbage. That's jazz cabbage now. All right, go ahead, Bob.
Well, I think one of the things that's happened is the existence of marijuana on the scheduled drugs has suppressed people who are not using it, okay? People saying, I don't want to get in touch with this. I think when that goes away, more people are going to want to use it.
Yeah, yes, you will get people that will use it if they know, hey, look, it's legal. I'm not going to go to jail. I'm not going to lose my job. Well, you might lose your job if they drug test you, but I'm not going to have the ramifications. Yes, that's going to happen, but I don't think that it's going to be this big, huge,
Well, you would concede it's going to be you would concede it's going to be more, and it's going to be more public.
But you know what else I concede? You know what else I concede, Bob? I also think that if it is legal, that there may be people that currently use alcohol and get just stupid and may go, you know what? Now weed's available. I'm not going to use alcohol anymore. I'm just going to go. I'm going to go smoke a joint and get high that way.
Sure, and then drive my motor vehicle because it's not illegal.
Bob, I just don't see this whole society in North Dakota going down in the pits because of this. I just don't. I mean, I have my concerns like you do. I do. I am, and I've expressed it many times. I'm concerned about the DUI thing. I really am.
So am I.
I'm concerned about that. That's my biggest concern I have with it. I just think it's going to be a field day for lawyers when they get in court because, again, just the way it's written, David, it's not a criminal offense. It's a nonviolent offense.
Well, I want to say one thing. I agree with you, Jay, that there are concerns. You and I have different interpretations of the law. My attorneys disagree with Bob and his attorneys. What I will say though is, when I talk to you, I feel like it's in good faith. I feel like your concern is specifically DUI.
Yeah, it is.
When I talk to Bob, I feel like his concerns are not DUI. His concerns are he just doesn't want it legal for other reasons that he won't say. And he's picking the politically popular
I did say my reasons are I think it's going to be a bad problem for North Dakota. Unlimited, unregulated, uncontrolled marijuana is not going to be good for North Dakota, period.
All right.
It has to be regulated, it has to be controlled.
So even if the DUI problem didn't exist, would you be yes or no?
I'm going to be no on this one, absolutely.
All right, guys, I got to go. Thank you, Bob, for hanging out an extra half hour. We can do this again down the road. We still got, what, a month and a half to go.
45 days, right?
Yeah, something like that. We barely touched the surface on it. Bob, where can people find out more information about your group?
Vote no on 3nd.com.
David, your group?
LegalizeND.com.
Guys, you were civil, man.
Hey.
You guys were civil.
You know, he wants to be a lawyer. I was a lawyer, so we sort of on both ends of that spectrum.
All right, gentlemen, appreciate it. Thank you. You callers that are on hold, you can hang on. We'll come to you here in about a little bit. I got to do some weather with John.
Thank you
Wheeler.
all very much.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you, David, for coming in and doing that this afternoon. And you listeners out there, I hope it helped you. Again, we'll try to put another one together as we get closer to the date. I'll still take phone calls. I got callers that have been waiting a while. Hang on, callers. Don't lose your spot. This is the Jay Thomas Show. All right, 443. Oh, my God. He's back again. Hey, can I take some calls? Can I take some calls before I go to you, the tipster?
Yeah.
We got guys who've been waiting on the marijuana thing here. And, your mic's on. You can be part of the conversation. I don't know if you want to, how deep you want to jump into Measure 3. You probably want to stay away from now on.
Yeah, I'm just going to listen.
All right, let me grab poor Bob here. He's been waiting. If he's still there, I don't know, Bob. Bob's on a hold so long that marijuana's passed, and it's on the books now.
And I'm still here. There's a few things that I'd like to mention. Cannabis was growing around North Dakota back in the early days, and they sent it to the state prison, and they made rope out of it. So that's, as far as the farmers go, that's the only benefit they're going to get, because nobody's going to buy anything that's been growing outside by farmers. And there's another thing. I think there's going to be a lot of money in taxes, but as far as these old warehouses that are too small and that are just kind of sitting there empty right now, the warehouses are going to go. You can't find a warehouse in Denver right now.
Really?
So I think the warehouses will be getting filled up. And as far as wanting to grow that stinky crap, there's no damn way I would have that around my house.
It does stink, man. When it's raw and unsmoked, marijuana just reeks. But I'll be honest with you, the smell of it when it's being smoked, the smoke from it, I love the smell of it. I really do. It's just. Oh, man.
Honestly, I haven't smelled it in
Thanks, Bob.
years.
It's been years?
Oh, and then I've smelled it.
Let's see. I got somebody in my neighborhood who likes to smoke up once in a while, so we're sitting in the backyard. You can smell it. Hey, Jason, you're up, Jay Thomas Show. Jace, go ahead. Yeah, he's gone. Sonny, Jay Thomas Show.
Yeah, I don't know. I just had one comment. The guy that's so worried that kids are going to get into it.
Yeah.
Kids get into alcohol, it's still legal. Kids get into cigarettes and alcohol both kill. Marijuana's never killed anyone yet.
Well, no. Hold on. No, I agree with you to a point that marijuana's never killed you. You can overdose from it. You can't. But people have died because they've gotten high and done stupid things, just like people do on alcohol.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I don't see all
but
of a
the
sudden.
substance itself doesn't do it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see all these kids just all of a sudden, having access easier. They can get it now, for God's sakes. I got an email. I should dig it up. I got tons of emails there, but there's one about basically telling me I'm full of crap that it's going to be easier for high school kids to get it now if it's passed. You people live in, I don't know where you're living. If you don't think that kids in high school right now couldn't make a phone call or what do these kids do? Text, whatever, to get their hands on marijuana within minutes, they can. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.